Hello, Namaste. Welcome to the Soma Matha online Sangha. Join us in practice for inner peace, which brings clarity in life, improving health, relationships, success, and prosperity, and which prepares the mind for true meditation, which awakens intuitive knowing and spiritual sight. Each week we are announcing upcoming events and opportunities to participate in the activities of the Soma Matha organization based near Richmond, Virginia. Led by Swami Gananatham, the Soma Matha is dedicated to spreading authentic teachings on spiritual yoga, mantra, meditation, Ayurveda, and other Vedic sciences for the peace of the world. We are working to build a temple for goddess Shakambhari Devi. Each week we will be sharing a teaching from Swamiji, doing a group mantra practice and meditation, and conducting a simple puja or prayer ceremony for the goddess to humbly supplicate her to bestow her blessing upon the Sangha. A Sangha is a spiritual community who come together to support one another in their practice. Each individual gains strength in their practice from the collective effort of the group. Sangha feeds our practice. It nourishes us and empowers our efforts. It smooths and balances the challenges we face as it lifts our consciousness into subtler realms. Namaste, my name is Grant Ottinger. I've been studying with Swami for a few years, and he's asked me to lead the Sangha since internet connection is weak at the property and live broadcast difficult. Swami will be watching the Sangha each week and participating in the group practices and sending video teachings for us. To receive, we must give. Our efforts to provide this virtual space and publish the many free teachings available on the website, Facebook, and YouTube pages are dependent upon your support. We are encouraging all Sangha participants to formalize their connection by becoming Sangha members and pledging their monthly support through the Patreon. There are 5 different tiers of support, so you can contribute according to your ability. All Sangha members will receive access to additional teachings and opportunities for support in their practice offered through the Patreon. If you want to deepen your practice and your connection to the Sangha, please visit our Patreon and pledge your support. The link is provided in the description of this video. So we're continuing. Swami has asked devotees daily to recite 108 repetitions of the Mahamrityunjaya mantra to help with COVID around the world and specifically in India. So the practice is to light an oil or ghee lamp and complete 108 repetitions of the mantra. If 108 repetitions is too many, please do whatever you can. You can reach out to us via the website for questions about the practice. The property in Hanover is now listed for sale. We are still working to raise money to purchase a new property. We are hopeful the sale of the property will raise some money towards a new one, but it is possible we may be left with very little after the sale. If you are interested in continuing the activities of the Soma Matha, please donate and help us. Volunteers are needed as well as monetary donations, and you can reach out to us via the website for more information about that. And now we will share a recorded teaching from Swami.
So today we will be talking about the last one of the yamas. The yamas and niyamas are the 2 preliminary practices that we have to do in the practice of yoga before we can start any of the physical poses to help us to sit, or the meditative practices that help to give us the union that we seek in the practice of yoga. So we've spoken about 9 of the 10 yamas, as mentioned in Tirumantiram of Tirumular, who is the brother sannyasi of Patanjali, who wrote the Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras is a short text that gives us just little synopsis, and the Tirumantiram is a very in-depth text that talks a lot about the practice in detail. Not that many details are given in Yoga Sutras. So in Yoga Sutras we have 5 yamas and 5 niyamas, and in the Tirumantiram we have 10 of each. And so the last of the yamas is shaucha, or purity. And so purity is a subject that can be difficult to talk about with people because they feel like it's a moral judgment, and then there's a lot of difficulty arises as people get offended or upset, or they feel lesser when we talk about pure and impure and all this kind of thing. It's like talking about morality, it's like talking about politics, talking about religion, and they say that we should not talk about these subjects or we upset people. So it can be difficult to address, but we have to understand that these recommendations are given to help the person who's the aspiring yogi to gain union. They're recommendations that are given. It's not a moral judgment. It's simply a recommendation to help empower the practice of yoga. And same for all yamas and niyamas. These are practices that if we do, it empowers our practice. And if we don't do them, even as we do the practice, it's like trying to carry water in a bucket with a hole in it. Any progress, any spiritual energy we build up, it just dissipates because we're dissipating our energies through not practicing the yama and niyama. So what does purity mean? In one sense, this could mean physical purity, just cleansing the body regularly. Of course, the Vedic Shastras tell us we should bathe every day before doing our sadhana. And bathing is very important. In earlier times in Europe, when people were getting very sick, getting the plague in the Middle Ages, people in India were enjoying much better health because they were bathing regularly. And they were not bathing very much in Europe. It's very important physically for the health of the body. But then also, if we have dust and dirt on us, there could be energies lingering with it. So we wash that away, and we wash away negative energies as we bathe from our aura, and that's clinging to things, clinging to us, and to wear clean clothing, and to keep our clothing clean and our space clean, to purify the physical space by sweeping regularly if we can, is a good suggestion that helps empower our practice. But the physical purity also is maintained by keeping healthy associations, working a dharmic occupation, not working a job that hurts people, that takes advantage of people, or that hurts animals, and associating with very spiritual and uplifting people, and cutting off the association with low-minded people. But then mentally also, the practice of purity can be practiced by practicing just very high spiritual thoughts, having love for everybody, compassion for everybody, trying to help everybody. We can try to look at people through the third eye, not to look at people through the lower chakras with greed and lust and feelings like this. We look and we just serve and we help the people we encounter. And so we can maintain the mental purity in the same way. We avoid for the physical body, we avoid the association with low-minded people. We can avoid the mental impressions that bring us down mentally, that introduce all these impure thoughts, greed and anger and depression. If you're overcome by anger or fear, or you're overcome by depression, then probably there's a lot of negative energies that you're introducing into your mind in the form of mental impressions you're taking in from the media, from the influence of people around you. And so we've got to be very careful what influences we take in. People who have a lot of fear and they're waking up every night with nightmares, often their favorite type of movie to watch is the scary movies, where some crazy guy has a knife and he's chasing everybody and all these kind of movies. And of course, it only increases the fear in the mind. And people who are struggling with feelings of desire for material things and possessions and name and fame, if they're looking at social media and reading books and listening to music about people with their own struggles with these issues, it will only give power to those impure thoughts within their mind. Ultimately, the pure thoughts is love and generosity. It's the divine sort of thoughts. And so we can avoid these things. It's very important to avoid the negative media. And this is not limited to only literature, but also music. All popular music is very negative, very low vibration. It brings us down. It may not be possible for us to have any realizations or any progress, even to release the darkness and negativity in the mind if we are listening to the popular music. Instead, we could listen to some of the spiritual classical, Western classical music, like Bach was composed for God as a spiritual practice. Some even of the literature was written for God. St. John of the Cross wrote in Spanish some beautiful poetry for the Lord. And so there is spiritual literature and spiritual music we can listen to. The Indian Carnatic music and the Hindustani music is very beautiful, very nice. And there's even the modern bhajans and kirtan and all these kind of modern devotional songs that are composed in India. If you have to listen to the radio in the USA, maybe at least it'd be a little better, maybe not perfect, but a little better if you listen to the Christian radio, because it has an uplifting message. They're thinking about God. And in those songs, they're usually not talking about trying to convert everybody and hurt everybody and take advantage of them. They're talking about faith and love and light and God. And so it's somewhat more uplifting. If we're accustomed to listening to music, we can substitute for some other more uplifting music. But then we've got to be careful as well for magazines and TV and movies. Probably we should avoid the movies altogether unless it's some nature documentary or something. And all this kind of thing is very, very important when we start our spiritual practice, to avoid these materialistic influences from society. It becomes less important as you become adept in your practice. As you get adept, you can then work through those things from your experience of working through the things in yourself, and you can bring that higher consciousness back to society. But for some time, it's useful to avoid certain segments of society and a lot of society. And that's why a lot of spiritual seekers go to live in an ashram. It's very difficult when you're in the world looking at the billboards and the ads and the signs in the shops, and you're looking at the TV and looking at the media. And social media is a big one now. It's very negative. We should avoid the social media. Maybe we can post on our social media. We shouldn't look at what other people are writing too much if it drags us down. And I mean, this is something that it's really probably a good recommendation to anyone who's starting their practice, who's in the first 5 years of their spiritual practice, to avoid these things entirely, to avoid the Bollywood and the Hollywood movies, to avoid the television shows, to avoid the popular music, to avoid literature, to avoid social media, all these things entirely. Of course, it's difficult if we run a business. We might have to use the social media. But even then, post, but don't look at what people are posting on their own social media. Just post uplifting things relating to your business and move on. Don't sit there looking at it. But if you really want to evaluate, and some things may be worse for you as an individual, some things may be better. Mental purity also we can maintain by avoiding tamasic foods, avoiding eating meat. Again, the first ahimsa yama, it's very important to avoid meat. And the last one for purity, it's important to avoid eating meat, because as we eat meat, it helps to strengthen the animal instincts within us, and it fills us with these negative emotions the animals felt at the slaughterhouse. Eating tamasic foods, taking drugs, taking alcohol, taking any kind of these substances, even taking an excess of caffeine may overstimulate the system, and then you burn out and your mind gets dull, it gets tamasic. And so if we want to have purity, we've got to take Ayurvedic herbs and get pure of the physical toxins that affect the mind and affect the body. And we've got to avoid toxic foods, to avoid ideally all the chemicals and fertilizer and pesticide, all these, and growth hormones and steroids they're putting in the foods. Especially with meat, it's very important, and certain vegetables and fruits they spray more often and more heavily. Others, they have a thick skin you can peel off. It doesn't matter as much, like a banana. You peel off that skin and not much got into the banana. But something like a strawberry, that you spray right on the strawberry and you're eating all that chemicals. And so certain things we have to be more careful. But any kind of these narcotic substances tend to be very tamasic. And people have the wrong idea that they're very spiritual. They're not very spiritual. If a person is overwhelmed mentally, emotionally, it dulls the mind. And maybe that's useful to them. I don't judge them. But ideally, in the yoga practice, we reduce all these things because it dulls the mind and it doesn't bring about the purity. But so if you want to evaluate which things are better for you, which things are harming you the most, one way we can do this if we want to. And I did this practice years back. I used to listen to music. I used to play music on musical instruments. I had a large collection of records when I was young. And I listened to them and I started to get the feeling it was making me to feel depressed. And so I did this practice that I'm going to recommend for you with that. And after I did this practice, I realized it was making me to feel bad. And I stopped listening to the music altogether. And now I don't listen to music. If I go on a long car ride, I just chant some mantras or I sit in the silence. It's very nice. It's a good meditative time for me. I don't ever listen to the music, but typically. But what you can do is before you do this thing, if you're even it could be anything. It could be going to meet with a certain friend. Is this friend uplifting? Does this friend bring me down? Could be looking at your social media. It could be eating certain types of food. How does it affect your consciousness? Whatever it may be that you're wondering, is this helping me? Is this harming me? And of course, if I've given you a list of things to avoid, movie, magazine, advertisements, the social media, bad association with people, whatever is triggering you or challenging you, and you say, "Oh, I don't have to do. I can't do that. I'm not a great yogi. I don't want to do that." That's probably the one that's hurting you the most. The one that your mind is trying to rationalize right now and say, "I should do this. I can do this." That's the one that's probably hurting you the most. So do this practice with that. And then compare it to something else on the list and just see. So before you do it, just sit and write how you're feeling. Just check in for a few minutes and sit and feel. And I feel dull, I feel tired, I feel happy, I feel angry, I feel depressed, I feel excited, whatever it may be. Just check in sometime before you do this activity. And write down all those things. Write it down. And then after you're done doing the activity, 15 minutes later or whatever, do the same thing. Check in and write down how you're feeling. I'm feeling lighthearted, I'm feeling heavy, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling overjoyed, I'm feeling optimistic, I'm feeling like doing my spiritual practice, I'm feeling like avoiding my spiritual practice, I feel pain in the physical body, I feel light and good in the physical body, whatever it may be. Write down what you're feeling before and then after. Because usually we don't have enough mindfulness. And especially if we have to think back. And if we have to think back on several occasions, we'll never remember all the details. So just write it down and don't make too much of it. Then do that activity again. Do it 3 times at least. And before, write down how you're feeling. And after, write down how you're feeling. And then go back and look and see if there's any trend there. If every time you do that activity, it seems that you're getting more depressed, you're getting less inclined to do your spiritual practice, then that's a bad impression for you. That's a Sangha. If you're meeting with people, that's a bad person to meet with. That's how we can know. But don't do it just once, because that could be a fluke. That, maybe something else affected it. Do it 3 times. Do it 5 times. Do it 7 times. And then you'll have a good idea if always the same thing is happening. Then what does that mean? Does that mean you have to stop that thing? No, not necessarily. But you can do it with more awareness now. You can do it with the awareness that you're going to get depressed when you do that. And so what do you need to do? You can do things to counterbalance that. Before you go to do that, do things to make yourself very happy. Do things to shield yourself energetically from whatever is affecting you and depressing you. Do your spiritual practice before, do your spiritual practice after to pull yourself up. Do your spiritual practice while you're doing it. If you're looking at the social media and you're falling into some negative thinking pattern, worrying about world news, worrying about the COVID or whatever, or you're falling into desire for, oh my goodness, this person, my friend just got a big house, I want a big house. You're falling into anger about politics or whatever it may be. Chant your mantra or chant some mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya, while you're looking at that social media. Look at those people in the images through your third eye. Look at their third eye. And then you'll be wanting to help them. It won't pull you into these feelings of desire, these feelings of depression, these feelings of anger, these feelings of fear. It may help to keep you uplifted. Also, you can wear white. It shields you from the energies around you. You can wear vibhuti on the forehead. It shields you. You can wear rudraksha mala. It'll help to uplift you, help to keep your consciousness high, help to keep the mental impressions being processed and purged out of the subconscious. If we wear rudraksha all the time, it keeps us purging those things from the subconscious. So it helps us. We can stay in a higher spiritual state that way. Maybe it would be possible doing all these kind of things, doing a lot of extra practice before and after, to not be pulled down by certain impressions, by certain associations. We have to associate with certain people. Our family, we can't choose. We've got to associate with them. If they're bringing us down, maybe for some short time, we might need to avoid them to heal ourselves, to forgive them. But then after a very short time, we've got to be around the family. We've got to be around our co-workers. They may not all be the most spiritual people in the world. If it's that bad, and if it's influencing us that badly, though, we could quit that job and get another job. It doesn't affect us so badly. Or where we don't have to be around the people so much, where we can work outside in a garden or something. We've got to do those things that are uplifting to us and take the precautions that are necessary. But at the same time, you've got to make a living. You've got to be out in the world. And so it's a delicate balance. How do we maintain this purity? And how do we not offend other people saying you're impure? We're doing a practice to put ourselves apart from society because the instinct of the mind and the instinct of the body and the instinct of the society is to go toward materialism and to focus on the physical things. In our spiritual practice, we try to focus on the subtler things so we can rise above the materialism. And so it's a different practice. We set ourselves apart. It's a good thing to wear some spiritual clothing that shows to the world that you've set yourself apart. To do these spiritual practices, people will approach you differently. People will send different sort of energies to you that's easier to deflect. It may not always be positive entirely, but it's easier to deflect. They won't invite you to the party. They won't try to sell you the drugs. Maybe they will if they think you're crazy, try to sell you the drugs. But they won't invite you to the party, and so there's the temptation gets taken away, and then these things that are bringing about the impure thoughts and impure feelings within us. But we can't repress any of those feelings either. Once the feelings are there, of course, don't watch a horror movie, don't watch the scary movie and introduce the fear into your mind. But if the fear is there, feel it. Let your body shake, feel it, let it pass. We've got to do that to become pure. It's the same way if there's toxins in the physical body. We've got to take herbs to purify the body, get it out, give strength to the tissues. We do the mantra and the sadhana and the meditation. We do all these practices and puja and yakyam or whatever else. We do these practices to purify the subconscious mind, to get rid of these lingering mental impressions. And of course, if we are putting much into the mind, more than we're releasing, we're not making progress. We're making backwards progress. There's one student of mine who was telling me one time, I like this show a lot. It's very good. It's called Game of Thrones. You should watch it. So I watched one episode of this show. And I came back to that student and I said, oh my God. I said, I think I just undid 2 months of sadhana by watching that one episode. I said, I think I'm going to be processing that for some time. Of course, a lot of these shows, they try to become more violent and more shocking and more alarming because people like that flow of adrenaline and that shock and that, of course, the show is always trying to trick you and, there's some twist that you're not expecting and it keeps people interested and guessing and they don't know what will happen. And, oh no, the main character is actually dead, but now he came back to life and actually he's not a man. He's actually he's his mother. These crazy kind of twists they put in the show so keep you guessing. You don't know what will happen. I've watched a few modern shows and people die and then wait, they're not actually dead. They're back now. You never know what will happen. So they try to make it more and more shocking and all that. And of course, watching this, maybe for a great yogi, they can undo that in their spiritual practice. For me, I can't do it, so I just avoid that show. Same with politics. Politics gets people so angry. Maybe the great yogi can be involved in politics, but I just get upset and frustrated and think, oh my God, is the world doomed? Lord help, is the world doomed? And so I just don't bother with the politics. I don't look at what they say. I don't look at what they do. I don't vote. I just pray on election day the best guy for us will be elected and have faith that happens. Our bad karma is issued to us through the low-minded people, and sometimes they're in the positions of power, and our good karma is issued back to us through the high-minded spiritual people who inspire us and bless us and help us to heal ourselves. And so we can try to associate with those people, try to associate with those influences around us, and that helps us to maintain the purity of mind. Keep the mantra always on your tongue, and it will uplift your consciousness. Always think about your guru. Always think about God. Meditate on their energy being with you, blessing you. Meditate on the divine light within, shining out, radiating out, and blessing people around you. And this is purity. This will bring about purity. It may first inspire an intense purging of negative things, and we need that to happen to become pure. If you have a cup full of dirty water, you've got to empty out all the dirt before you can put pure water in. You may have to sit there and scrub to get the remnants of the dirt out. This is what our sadhana does. It makes us pure, but we've got to be pure to meditate. If we're a cup full of dirt, our consciousness is going to be like that. We can't have the higher consciousness. We can't see into the intuitive knowing. We can't see into the inner realms. We've got to clear out the dirt and the dust in the subconscious mind, in the conscious mind, in the physical body. And this is the purpose of sadhana. Om.
Thank you, Swami. So now we've finished the recitation of the Gayatri Mantra for Shakambhari Devi. And now for the Japan practice, we will be doing the Devi Panchakshari Mantra. The Devi Panchakshari Mantra is the 5-syllable mantra of the goddess. It is the same as the sacred Panchakshara Mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, with the addition of the Shakti Bij Hrim. It uplifts consciousness to the highest state of peace and bliss. It empowers our spiritual practices and grants liberation from all troubles. Though its literal meaning is Om, I bow to the goddess who empowers divine peace and consciousness, whose seed syllable is Hrim. True understanding of a mantra is in the spiritual experience it bestows to the seekers as it elevates their level of awareness through dedicated practice over time.
We will do 108 repetitions of the mantra. Om Hrim Namah Shivaya. 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 Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
The instructions for our meditation are to sit silently with the spine straight, shoulders back and relaxed. Close the eyes and allow yourself to see the inner light of the divine radiating from your heart. If you do not see it, feel it. If distracting thoughts or feelings come into the mind, allow them to be. Witness them without hesitation, without judgment, and without analysis. Allow the light of the divine to heal them, bringing deep peace and wisdom. In light, all darkness vanishes. Practice sitting in the inner light, which is bright like 10 million suns. Let this light heal you. Invite that experience. Allow it to guide your consciousness and impel your actions for the highest good of the three realms. Om. Puja is a traditional system of offerings, coupled with mantras and visualizations revealed by the sages to help people seek the assistance of divine beings in their lives and spiritual practice. Puja ceremonies can be simple, as in the case of the offerings made daily in the homes of millions of Hindus, or extremely complicated, as are the rituals of temple consecration, which require the participation of hundreds of devotees and dozens of well-trained priests. The oil lamps, fruits, flowers, water, herbal incense, and other offerings provide prana, or subtle nutrients, for the devas and other inner realm beings to send blessings to the physical realm. The sacred mantras open a channel to the inner realms. The effects of puja are powerful to bring about peace and healing. During puja, problems are mysteriously resolved and answers to difficult questions arise spontaneously by the grace of the many inner plane beings working to fulfill our prayer, empowered by the sacred mantras and offerings. We are conducting a simple Pancha Puja of 5 offerings. These offerings relate to the 5 elements and are Pushpa, a flower, which symbolizes the ether element, Gandha, or sandalwood paste, connected to the earth element, Thupa, incense, symbolic of the air element, Deepa, light, symbolizing fire, and Naivedyam, food relating to water.
Om Adya Purvokta Evam Gunavisheshena Vishishtayam Asyam Shubhatithau Sri Soma Matha Sanghasya Asmakam Sahakutumbhanam Kshemasthirya Virya Vijaya Ayura Roga Aishwaryanam Abhivriddhyartham Shri Shakhambhari Devi Prasada Siddhyartham Yatha Shaktya Shri Shakhambhari Devi Pancha Pujam Karisye Om Apa Upasprisya Om Jata Veda Zezunavama Soma Marathi Hato Nidahati Vedaha Sanah Parshadati Durgani Vishvanaveva Sindhum Duritatyaknihi Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Om Bhurbhuvasvaha Asmin Chitrapathe Sri Shakambhari Devim Avahayami Sthapayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Gandhan Dharayami Gandhasyopari Haridra Kumkumam Samarpayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Pushpam Pujayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Dhupam Agrapayami Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha Deepam Darshayami Om Amritamastu Amritopastaranamasi Om Pranaya Swaha Om Apanaya Swaha Om Vyanaya Swaha Om Udanaya Swaha. Om Samanaya Swaha. Om Brahmane Swaha. Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha. Naivedyam Nivedayami. Tambulam Nivedayami. Amritapaniyam Samarpayami. Om Yopam Pushpam Veda. Pushpavan Prajavahan Pashuman Bhavati. Chandramava Apam Pushpam. Pushpavan Prajavahan Pashuman Bhavati. Ya evam Veda. Yopamayatanam Veda. Ayatanavan Bhavati. Rajadhirajaya Prasaya Sahine. Namo Vayam Vahi Shravanaya Kurmahe. Same Kaman Kama Kama Yahmahyam. Kameshwaro Vaihe Shravano Dadhatu. Kuberaya Vaishravanaya. Maharajaya Namaha. Yo Vedado Swarah Prokto Vedante Cha Pratishtitaha. Tasya Prakriti Linasya Yah Parasa Maheshwaraha. Narayanye Cha Vidmahe Shakambhare Cha Dhimahi. Tatno Devi Prachodayate. Om Am Sham Shakambhari Devye Namaha. Om Bhurbhuvassuvaha. Om Avahitabhyas Sarvabhyo Devatabhyo Namaha. Vedokta Mantra Pushpanjalim Samarpayami. Kale Varshantu Parjanyaha. Prithive Sasya Sahitni. Desho Hyam Kshobarahitaha. Brahmana Sandhu Nirbhaya. Bhagavata Sandhu Nirbhaya. Sajjana Sandhu Nirbhaya. Sarvechana Sandhu Nirbhaya. Swaste Prajabhyah Paripalayantam. Nyayena Margena Mahimahisha. Go Brahmanebhyah Shubhamastu Nityam. Lokah Samastha Sukhino Bhavantu. Aim Kara Hrim Kara Rahasya Yukta. Shrim Kara Gudhartha Mahavibhutya. Om Kara Marma Pradipadinibhyam. Namo Namaha Shri Guru Padukabhyam. Ajnana Nashanaya Vidmahe Jnana Prakashaya Dhimahi. Tapno Guru Padukah Prachodayate. Om Shatamanam Bhavati Shatayuh Purushashatendriya Ayushevendrihe Pratitishthati. Om Sahatna Vavatu. Sahatna Bhunakto. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat. Shri Devi Arpanamastu.
Thank you for watching this Sangha. Don't forget to donate and help in whatever ways you're able for us to continue the activities of the Soma Matha with a new and beautiful property. Thank you.